The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. Yeah!
Hi, welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. In this episode, I'm going to give you my prediction for 2023, kind of a state of the industry report for 2022, and share my thoughts of what things will look like going forward. Pool Service Pro. Open a Leslie's wholesale account today and receive wholesale pricing on products you use every day. Leslie's Pool Supply offers convenient locations that are open 7 days a week. Another great benefit of opening a Leslie's wholesale account is Leslie's referral program. Get referred to a customer looking for weekly pool service. Save time and money and grow your pool service route and become a Leslie's Pro. If you are a student of history, you're going to know that the past is a good indicator of the future or present. And that's why I think history is a great subject in school, because you're studying past mistakes that people have made, and you're going to see the same mistakes repeated over and over again when people don't learn from history to avoid doing these mistakes. And the same goes with business. When you're predicting 1 year to the next, you're looking at what happened in the past as a predictor. Now, of course, there are some anomalies or years that kind of pop up that throw everything out of whack, and I think 2021 was one of those, with COVID and shutting everything down in 2020, and then you had the hurricane hitting, which destroyed the BioLab factory in Louisiana, causing chemical prices to skyrocket, and then the demand for chemicals to increase because during COVID, everyone was at home using their pool. I had customers at that point using their pool, which they never used prior to me ever servicing their pool. I didn't ever think anyone used their pool, but during COVID, they were using their pool, and this caused a run on chemicals because everyone was using their pools, and then they sold out of above ground pools. There was nowhere to go, so everyone bought above ground pools, and this put a real strain on an industry which was already stretched pretty thin when that BioLab factory exploded, causing the trichlor production to come to a screeching halt, meaning that we were relying on cal hypo and liquid chlorine as our primary sanitizers, which there wasn't enough of. And then you added in the transportation issues and labor shortages. And 2021 was a year that is something that we want to forget. Unfortunately, 2022 was like a mirror image of 2021, which is to be expected. You're not going to see things reverse or revert 1 year after another. And so the inflation, of course, increased in 2022 with the added wrinkle of gas prices going up like 30 or 40%, depending on your area, which means that the cost of transporting goods went up. The cost of labor, of course, went up because of the fuel costs being higher. And then the cost of you doing business is higher because you're paying more for gas for your truck. All of that was kind of a mirror image of 2021. There wasn't much difference, except maybe we're out of cal hypo this year and we have plenty of tablets. And so what am I looking at in 2023? I would say a lot of the same, which is what happened in 2022. The only thing new in 2023 that I see that isn't happening this year to a great extent is the fact that everyone's predicting a recession sometime in 2023, maybe the second quarter or third quarter. And basically all that means is that the economy is going to contract a little bit and people aren't going to be spending money as freely. And this will translate in our industry as maybe your distributor or supplier is not going to stock up extensively as they did this year. So there may be a false shortage of inventory because the distributor or your supplier didn't purchase enough filters or heaters or pumps because they figured there's going to be contraction in the economy, meaning that they're going to be stuck with a lot of inventory. So they may have ordered less. There's really no way to know because our industry is kind of unique and separate to other industries. If you look at the textile or clothing industry, you'll see like stores like Target didn't order any clothes coming up for next year because they have tons of inventory. Not really the same in the pool industry because we go through our inventory pretty quickly, and there still has been a shortage of particular pool products like the IntelliFlow pump. But I think definitely there's probably going to be some contraction in the purchasing of products because of the recession, and maybe money will be tighter in some situations. But as a weekly pool service provider, if we do weekly pool maintenance, I wouldn't be too concerned about the recession because most of your clients are in industries that are insulated from the recession. They're teachers, doctors, lawyers, some type of professional. They may be a business owner. So the recession is going to impact them, yes, but probably not to the extent where they're going to get rid of their pool service and do the pool themselves. And besides that, I mentioned before in other podcasts that the high inflation in 2021 has really helped the pool pro not lose clients, because when they go into the pool store and they're looking to buy, the starter chemicals for their pool, they're going to buy 25 pounds of cal hypo, or maybe 2 or 3 cases of liquid chlorine, a 50-pound bucket of trichlor, and they go to the register and it's going to be like $650. They're going to be like, I think I'm going to cancel that. I'll continue my pool service. And then they'll have to buy more chemicals during the season. It's really ugly for the do-it-yourself homeowner now because of the high cost of chemicals. So if you're looking for a silver lining in inflation or the inflated price of the chemicals, this is probably one of the silver linings. The other silver lining is that we can raise our rates, comfortably for the first time in a long time, actually, because of this inflation. We have something to point to that the customer can tangibly see. I sent some customers the prices for the tablets, retail prices, so they understand, some screenshots on Amazon and Leslie's Pool Supply. So they have an idea of why I'm charging them so much for their tablets, and they understand that. And so we have something tangible now with the inflation to use to raise our prices. And our prices are still lower than other things that have gone up with inflation, like car payments have gone up 40%. And your mortgage payment has gone up like 40% over the year before, but not your mortgage payment currently, but if you were to buy a house this year, your mortgage would be 40% more than it was a year ago if you would have bought a house last year. So all these factors make the pool service rate that you charge, very attractive still to customers. Even going into a recession, they're not going to find much relief by doing the pool themselves and going into Leslie's Pool Supply to buy chemicals. They're not going to save too much money. It's going to be time consuming for them to take care of their pool. And they'll probably, if they do let you go, come back to you within a couple months or 3 months. And only a fraction of your customers may leave you. In the height of the recession of 2008, 2009, 2010, I would say that only about 10% of the customers canceled service. But that was a different era. I mentioned they can go into the pool store and they can buy a 50-pound bucket of tablets for $80. They can buy, 50 pounds of cal hypo for under $100. That's nothing like it is now. And the high inflated cost of chemicals is going to keep the customers on your service list in most cases. So I would say going into 2023, the only factor that would be different in a departure from 2022 is the possibility of working in a recession year. Shouldn't affect you dramatically. It'll probably affect the builders more. I'm surprised at the rate of pool building. It's continuing to be accelerated, and there's still a waiting list or a long wait to have a pool built in my area. So that hasn't really been affected by the economy in 2022. Maybe next year there'll be less pool building, but who knows? It should be not a huge recession, maybe a mild recession, hopefully. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. And I've gone through the biggest recession there ever was in the industry in 2007, 8, 9, and 10. I would say all those years together were the worst years to be in business. And I survived it. You'll survive this one. And this one won't be nearly as bad as those years that I mentioned. And I think something that's going to be a factor that wasn't a factor, at least not in California. If you lived outside of California, this doesn't affect you. I guess I can say that for everything that happens in California, that if you live outside of California, you're not going to be affected by what we do here. We're kind of a state that's kind of on the leading edge of things for good and for bad. And we have a law in our books called AB5. And basically you can't have a 1099 employee if you have a pool service company. And I did a podcast on this, and it's heading across the nation. The Biden administration has started a kind of pilot program. It's not going to be enforced by the Department of Labor yet, but I believe that the same rules that we have here in California within the next year or two are going to be national. And so if you're paying your employee as a 1099 subcontractor, chances are that within the next 1 or 2 years in Texas, Florida, Arizona, you're going to have to make them an employee, which isn't bad in that sense. It just creates another layer for you as the employer. You'll have to hire a payroll company, and you'll have to get workers' comp, and you're going to have to do some other things, of course, that go along with payroll. But it's one of those things that because of California and we're kind of ahead of things and we kind of ruin things for everyone across the country, don't be surprised if your state will also adopt a no gas powered car sales by 2035 rule that we have here. And everything seems to come out of California and head across the nation. And I think this is something that you have to be aware of, that the labor market is tight already. Finding employees is really difficult. And now, if you're going to not have a 1099 option, you may find it even harder to find people that want to work for you. And this is what happened in California. And it's going to happen across the nation, I believe, starting in 2023 and expanding across the whole nation. The question I'm asked all the time is, will prices drop in 2023? Well, they didn't drop in 2022. And I think the tablet supply is pretty stable right now, meaning that there are plenty of 3-inch trichlor tablets, and the BioLab factory should be back online producing trichlor tablets in 2023. So there's going to be a ton of trichlor tablets available, in my opinion, in 2023. Will that affect the prices? Are they going to drop from their peak of 2022, which they already have dropped considerably from the peak? If you go to Leslie's Pool Supply, go to their website. That's my litmus test for pricing, by the way. They're really great for the industry because they set their prices, retail prices, at a level that's really competitive to your prices. And if you get stuff wholesale, you can match their retail pricing. So currently, a 35-pound bucket of tablets is $209. I think it's off the high. I think it was like I'm trying to remember the high for retail, but it was like $250 for that. And then if you wanted a 50-pound tablet bucket, it's $269. So definitely off the high. I believe that was closer to $300 in the peak of the season. Will it drop more than that? I don't really know if it will, because there's other factors in play. If you study microeconomics, or is it macroeconomics, one of those two. I wasn't paying attention in high school too much in my economics class, but I do know that there are more factors involved in pricing than just supply and demand. It's probably the biggest one that people gravitate towards. But of course, there's the elevated cost of employment or having an employee. And there's also the fuel costs that have gone up 30% this year. And I don't think it's going to drop significantly in 2023. And so the price of tablets, there's other factors besides supply and demand. However, with an abundant supply, you may see the prices drop down to more reasonable pricing. If you look at that 50-pound bucket of tablets for $269, and if you rewind the clock, and you don't really want to do this too often because it's really frustrating and it's one of those things that's depressing. But if you were to rewind the clock to the beginning of 2020, that same 50-pound bucket of tablets selling for $270 at Leslie's was selling for a little over $109, $110. So it is depressing that it's gone up over 100%, or maybe 150%, or actually 200%. And it's one of those things that, will it drop back down to $109 for a 50-pound bucket? I don't think so, because there's other factors in play now. And since the prices have gone up, it's really hard for prices to go back down once they go up. It's just one of those things. I remember back in, I think it was 1994, when gasoline was like around 92 cents a gallon. Then it went to 96 cents a gallon. And then it crossed the dollar mark, and people were like losing their minds over gas being $1 a gallon here in California. It was really crazy. And once it got over that particular level, it never went down. And right now, gas here is closer to $6 a gallon. So it's one of those things that once the price goes up, there are other factors that keep the price up. And it's not going to be pricing of 2020 ever again because of these other factors. So get that out of your mind, that the prices are going to drop down. In fact, the inflated prices actually help your service business because it's more expensive for someone to do the pool themselves, meaning that service is much more attractive now. And I mentioned in another podcast that the cost of building a pool has gone up 400% or 4 times what it was back in 20 years ago. And so the initial investment someone has to make to have a pool built is something pretty tremendous. And they definitely will hire someone to maintain that pool because they have so much money invested in that pool now. Where back in the day, early 2000s, you can get a pool built for 20,000, a really decent pool. So I think since prices have trended upwards and stayed elevated, they're not going to go back down even to a point where they're reasonable. I think the prices are still inflated. There's some wiggle room there, but no one has kind of broken and dropped down their prices. So it's one of those things. I mean, if you're looking at a 50-pound bucket of Cal Hypo, if you buy the Leslie's power powder, which by the way they ran out of during the season here, which is pretty unusual. I thought all the chemicals were really well stocked, and then Cal Hypo ran out somewhere around July here. August, we ran out of Cal Hypo. But a 50-pound bucket of the power powder is $334 right now at Leslie's. And that same 50-pound bucket, 2020, was hovering a little over $100, I think. It was about $2 a pound for Cal Hypo. So it's pretty crazy to think about it and to get your head around it. So if you just started in 2021, all of this is all new to you. And if you remember the prices back then, just get that out of your head. They're never going to go back down as far as I know. And as far as the experts say, the prices are going to maybe dip a little bit and become more reasonable, but you're never going to get cheap pool chemicals ever again, unfortunately. I think something that is going to continue, which is a good thing in 2023, is that the availability of service customers is still going to be there, even in a recessionary year. We had no trouble getting customers this year. In fact, I couldn't even give a pool away to somebody in my area for free. They were just overbooked. They didn't even want to take it. And it's going to be similar, I think, across the nation, where you're going to have a lot of people wanting service. A lot of pools are being built and coming online. Commercial pools are all fully open. And there's a big demand for pool service across the nation. Just like my HVAC guy, where he's got his phone ringing off the hook and working 6 days a week. Pool service is a lot like that still, where there's not a lot of areas where you can't find accounts. Accounts kind of fall into your lap. You don't have to advertise too aggressively. If you advertise even somewhat aggressively, you're going to land a lot of accounts. And back in the day, there was a ratio of when you put flyers out, you would get 20 hits on 1,000 flyers, and then you would land about 2 or 3 of those. I think those ratios are a lot different now, and so there's more pools to be had, easier out there. So that's a good thing, and I think in 2023, the same thing will happen. If you heard the beginning where I gave a little commercial for Leslie's Wholesale, if you're a Leslie's Pro member, you're going to get referrals out of the pool store from the manager. So a lot of people come into the Leslie's pool store. Leslie doesn't do weekly pool service. And if you're looking for an easy way to get accounts, open a Leslie's Pro account, and the manager will give your card out to the customer that comes in or looking for pool service. And it's a great way to build up your pool route while you're getting your wholesale chemicals. And I think that's going to continue as far as getting customers easily. I just gave you a tip on how to get customers basically for free out of your local Leslie store. And getting customers is going to be relatively easy still in 2023 is what I'm predicting. And I think, people are willing to pay for pool service, even at the inflated prices, because the chemical cost is inflated if they try to do it themselves. And they have a lot of money invested in their backyard. And to be honest with you, during a recession, people are working harder to make ends meet, and they're going to be out there doing things that are more productive than taking care of their own pool. If you are doing a business and you take time out to do your pool and maintain it, you're not really saving any money, because you should be out there trying to expand what you do and make more money rather than cut the pool guy and go buy your chemicals and save $20 or $30 a month, or maybe $40 a month, where you can use that time and energy to be expanding your business or working 1 extra hour or 2 extra hours at your job, whatever it takes. It just makes more economic sense during a recession sometimes, not to cut and do things yourself, but to pay someone to do them so you can expand your business. And I think a lot of people have realized that now, and that's why, of course, the landscapers or the gardeners, I can't even find a gardener for some of my rental properties. They're all booked up in certain areas. And I think that's why those businesses have expanded, because people just don't have the time to do it themselves. They're busy at work. They're busy trying to make ends meet. And the last thing they want to do is to maintain their pool and clean it up and scrub algae that's in the pool. They'd rather hire someone else to maintain it so that they have a headache-free experience with their pool. And so I think going forward, you're going to not really have an impact on the industry, even though we're heading into what should be a mild recession, I'm assuming, from all the indicators, and we should bounce out of it pretty quickly. The thing that I think is the biggest factor in the pool industry is the high inflation, and I don't think the inflation's going away anytime soon, at least in the pool industry. Maybe other industries will feel less inflation than we feel, but it seems like over the last 2 years, there has been no relief, and I don't think in 2023 there's going to be much relief for inflation. But you're getting paid higher prices for your pool service. You're getting paid higher prices for your installs and repairs. And so that should be keeping you afloat. If you had changed your business model in 2021 to account for the high inflation, if you move some of the chemicals that you included in your service to the customer and let them pay for it, you should be fine in 2023 with very little to worry about. Everything should be very similar to 2022 and 2021 going forward. And I hate to say it, but I think this is a new normal in the pool industry, and I don't see much relief from the high inflation because there's more than one factor causing it, unfortunately. But that's how I see the next season, and that's kind of the recap of 2022. It was very much like 2021 with less shortages. You weren't driving an hour around looking for chlorine in your city, in your area. There weren't signs out front of suppliers saying they're out of cal hypo, dichlor, trichlor. So it was a little better than last year. 2022 was better than 2021. And I think in 2023, we're going to have the full recovery of chemicals in stock. It's not going to be an issue. I could be wrong, but I don't think having chemicals in stock is going to be an issue in 2023. But you're going to be paying a higher price for it, or the same price that you're paying in 2022. From what I'm looking at, I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong. And in 2023, in April, you go into the pool supply store, and a 50-pound bucket of tablets is $110. Then you can go back and you can, leave me a message on this podcast saying you were wrong, and the tablet price is back to $100. I'd be glad if that were to happen, but I don't see it happening. But if it does happen, I'll definitely take the blame for having a bad prediction. And if you're looking for other podcasts that I recorded, you can find those on my website, swimmingpoollearning.com. And if you click on the banner, on the podcast icon on the banner, you'll see a drop-down menu. And if you're looking to have coaching from my coaching program, you can learn more about that at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your week, and God bless. Pool Service Pro. Open a Leslie's wholesale account today and receive wholesale pricing on products you use every day. Leslie's Pool Supply offers convenient locations that are open 7 days a week. Another great benefit of opening a Leslie's wholesale account is Leslie's referral program. Get referred to a customer looking for weekly pool service. Save time and money and grow your pool service route and become a Leslie's Pro.